Welcome to the
can't.
Yang Gang Roundtable. It is, let's see, 3:04 p.m. Saturday, June 6th, 2020. Faye was just offering to do a screen share of Blair Walsingham's, of a still from Blair Walsingham's campaign ad, where she evokes Uncle Sam in these really great striped pants. So to introduce you on a more serious note, welcome to the Yang Gang Roundtable. We're a basic income advocacy podcast, if you don't know, and we are fortunate enough to have Blair Walsingham, who is running as a member of the UBI caucus in Tennessee for Congress. So thank you so much for coming to the show. We're all UBI advocates, and we are eager to have a conversation about how we can be a more effective coalition with you. So without any further delay, we can just get started. Actually, we should probably just quickly introduce ourselves, right? So Faye, would you like to get started with that? So I was thinking we took so long to do introductions yesterday, but we're just six of us today. Anyway, yeah, go on.
Well, if you open up the screen share, I can do that screen share later.
Yes, thank you.
It's not open to participants yet. Okay.
Okay.
My name is Faye Koo, and I live in East Texas. I'm a single parent, and I have a 6-year-old with me. I have 2 other children I never get to see. But I'm active in the Anderson County Democrats group, and I'm attending the Texas Democratic Convention right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Faye. My name is Shale. I am one of the producers of the show and the founder of the show. I started the show to bridge communication gaps in the disparate UBI advocacy community. And that's what we're doing. So thank you for being on. Ariel?
Yeah, my name is Ariel, and I am a YouTuber. You can find my YouTube page. It's called Revolutionary Thinking. And you can also find me on Twitter at Ariels_Armada.
Thank you, Ariel. Jeremy.
Hi, this is Jeremy. I'm the co-producer of this show as well. Coming at you from St. Louis, Missouri. And if you want to find me on Twitter, you can hit me up at Jeremy Sammons1. That is JeremySammons and the number 1.
Thank you, Jeremy. And finally, Hannah.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm an activist from Seattle, currently in Los Angeles supporting Black Lives Matter protests. I'm actually walking to a protest right now. But yeah, I wanted to meet Blair, finally. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Hannah. I've been waiting to meet you also. I'm glad you're here.
Well, before
Jesse, you just came in. Is Jesse going to participate too?
I don't know. I thought that I had an email that said that I was scheduled to participate right now at this time, but nobody ever followed up or sent a Zoom link, and I've had to follow up multiple times. So confused, a little bit annoyed. I've set aside part of my day for this. I would like some clarification, please.
Oh.
But I'm happy to leave the podcast.
Oh, it's okay. You're from Canadian UBI. I just saw the message that Faye. So Faye knows you.
Maybe Faye Doney.
It was Faye Doney.
Right. Yeah.
And then I was also talking with Jeremy Sammons over email. I emailed him yesterday and again today, twice now.
Jeremy's right here. You're welcome to stay, I believe. Jeremy,
it's okay. I feel extremely awkward right now, which is why I turned my video off. I've got anxiety and I'm not really thrilled. So maybe this isn't the best time.
You know what happened here is I had you confused with the Blair Walsingham's campaign, and I got these two mixed up, and so I double booked you. And you have my sincerest apologies. I totally dropped the ball on this.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, enjoy your podcast. Bye.
All right. Well,
having her on
sorry about that. It's okay. It happens. It's a crazy time. Everyone's attention is very divided. Sorry about that. But let's have you introduce yourself in I don't know. Faye, were you gonna say something?
I was going to try to screen share, but I don't know who is the host. So the host has to allow
I think Hannah is the host.
Oh, well, host is busy right now, so we're not going to be able to do that right this minute.
Okay. I made a bunch of co-hosts, so whoever has a co-host designation can do what I can do.
Okay. I'm not sure who's designated as co-host, but let's not worry about that right now. We can just get to the actual discussion. So, where should we begin? We should probably have you introduce yourself, Blair.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Blair Walsingham. I live in Tennessee's 1st District, which is the top right corner. It's very, very rural, 93% rural. And when I say I live in the sticks of the mountainside, I mean it. We have no cell service for about a half-hour radius. It's really, really hard to get internet out here. I have a satellite and an antenna. It is the best you can get, and it often doesn't work at all. I'm a mother of 4. I'm an Air Force veteran. I own a small dog grooming business. I am a homesteader. I'm hoping to expand in the future to grow local produce for just everybody out here. And I'm running for Congress, obviously. I champion the humanity first values, which is just so, so close to my heart. I think that politics should have been this way from the get-go. It should just be how society works, is we put people first. It seems like a no-brainer. And we're just really working for change. So.
That's awesome. I have a beautiful ad that you guys put together on your campaign. I'd love to share that with everyone. Let me do that right now.
There we go.
Oh, have you all seen this? This is like the best thing I've ever seen. She looks like a pillar holding up this courthouse behind her. Can you tell us where this location is, where you shot this?
Yeah, this is in Rogersville, which is on the other side of my mountain. It's the closest town to me. It is a very historic little town. It's gorgeous, but very small also.
And it's showing you doing some of your own repair work. I mean, as a homesteader, you really do everything.
Yeah, so my dad was in the military growing up, and he was an airspace mechanic. And he definitely, from a very early age, was like, here's a wrench. Help me work on the car. And then as I became a teenager and wanted my own car, he's like, well, you have to be able to do all your own repairs. So I did. So I have changed head gaskets, ACs, like compressors, everything. Even I was 9 months pregnant with my middle daughter, and I was out changing the brakes and the rotors on our F-250 Super Duty, So I really enjoy working on cars. I'm very mechanical. And I like to be self-sufficient. I see it as an advantage. If you're able to do something, you should. And it makes you really appreciate things a lot more, to understand, how hard something simple can be. So I was actually changing the spark plugs on my expedition in that picture, which was not easy. I've done it so many times on so many different models. I was like, why did they do this? That's how it always, every time I work on a different car, I'm like, why did they do this? But yeah, I was actually a parts specialist at O'Reilly's Auto Parts for a few years too, so it's fun.
And on this, the bottom, well, okay, personal stories. My dad also told me something like that, but he was like, you have to at least learn how to fix a bike before you can take a car out. And I never even learned how to do that. So this is what city life is like, being a suburban girl.
There's advantages of city life too.
Well, and then I wish that I wonder often how good my life could have been if my parents had said, here's this broken thing, could you fix it? And you actually had that experience. So what about this photo down at the bottom with you shooting?
Yeah, the bottom one, that is actually one of my grandfather's guns that he passed down through the family, and I love it. It has one of his military coins actually embedded in the butt of the gun. It's just it's a really special one that I have, and I just really wanted, I was actually having target practice, and they were like, hey, can we get a few shots of you shooting? I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely. But I had mentioned earlier, some people were apprehensive about it just because it is a gun, and we don't have to always be afraid of these things. What we need to do is make people happy and healthy, and then we wouldn't have to worry about it so much.
We really can't let culture war stuff divide us on the economic, physical needs we have to live and live well. We really need to get to a place where everyone in America has agency, and everyone is at a place where they're on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Is it Maslow's? They're
It is.
yeah, where they have agency and where they are self-actualized, and then we can have a culture debate. But we're not there. You know, that's my case for any issue basically that's not UBI.
Well,
Yeah.
I honestly believe
good
that
ca-
very few, like vanishingly small percentage of people in the United States would be against Blair being able to handle a beautiful gun that was handed down to her by her grandfather.
Yeah. I mean, who are these really gun-phobic liberals? It's not me. I've always voted Democrat in, well, almost every election. I voted Green Party a couple times, but yeah, who cares? Who cares? It's a non-issue.
I think
I don't know.
right
What
now
seems to
people are
be a
just
big
at this
issue.
like heightened. Yeah, everybody's just so intense right now and really just looking for reasons to have these arguments, it seems.
Well, I'm wondering, are you running as a Democrat this year?
I am on the Democratic ticket,
Which party
but
are you
I
running
focus
under
heavily.
for your...
Sorry, guys, I'm on a lag. I think my internet is a little bit behind. I am on the Democratic ticket, but I focus heavily on being nonpartisan, the not left, not right, but forward. Let's work across the aisle. Let's drop this towing a line, and I'm just going to vote based on a letter that's absolutely ridiculous. That is like gang wars. This is out of control. This needs to be based on what's best for people, not on a label. I actually very much hate labels at large. So
Because
I
they
hate
don't
that
get
question.
any.
It doesn't say, well,
Right.
yeah, and it's limiting. Once somebody puts a label, especially on yourself, you're limiting yourself, and I don't
Right,
like
right.
that.
I like to think of it as like if somebody works in a business, you really don't care like what your coworkers think or believe. You just care like, are my coworkers and is my boss, are we getting the job done? And if you're not getting the job done, it doesn't matter how many emotions that you latch onto. You're not doing your job, then why are you even there? You know? Yeah.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
It's like, oh well I believe like you'd never expect, like if you had people working for you, like I'm working for you, but I want to make you all emotional and angry and not get anything solved. You'd say, then get the hell out, then don't work for me. They work for us, and it's like, no, we don't want you to make us angry and emotional. We want you to get a damn job done already, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, right? Is people are so disconnected. The politicians that are in there aren't listening, and we're going, how are these people even in office? But then the other half of the population is going, my voice doesn't matter. It's too much for me to handle. They're very disconnected. So we have to find a way to get people re-engaged and realize that we have the power if we so choose to embrace it.
Right. I heard there was a problem solvers caucus going on or something like that, and I just like the sound of that. So it's like, yeah, exactly what we're saying. Like, what are the metrics of something that people want to see done, get done, and let's go off of that. Like, let's measure all these, you know, things that are in our society, and let's see how that works.
Definitely. I like that too. Problem solvers. That's great.
Exactly. Because as they said, like back in ancient Rome, they had like bread and circus. And I think that's what all this culture war stuff is beginning to be. It's like, let's loot from the American people by bailing out Wall Street, which, you know, I have like a little bit of conservative tendencies too, but I never understood why we privatized the gains and we socialized the losses. You would think it would be the other way around. It's like if the corporations are doing well, it's only for them. It's not for us. But if the corporations are struggling, then we all have to struggle with them, but we don't participate in the gains. That's some kind of reverse socialism BS that boggles my mind.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. It's really backwards, and it would make more sense if people are doing well, then the corporations are going to do well, because we're consumers and we're going to be able to spend and do so as we please. But you're right. Right now it's set up so that the corporate dollar is what rules the world, and we have to change that.
Hi, Blair. So looking at the policies you have listed on your website, they are almost exactly in line with the Yang campaign. Everything from UBI, universal access to healthcare, term limits, democracy dollars. I'm curious, were there any policies that Yang was running on that you actually do not embody in your campaign?
Oh man, yeah, that's such a hard question because I hate being negative, but I mean, he had a lot of policies. He had more policies up than like anybody else ever has. He had the one, which now that COVID's happened, I'm a little different about it because I feel like I'm definitely on a computer or a phone more. But basically, he had the one policy about limiting, especially children, and how much they're on electronics. And I, as a just like independent person, was like, I don't need anybody to tell me or my kids when enough is enough. Like that's my job to do this. So I didn't love that policy, but I also see where it could be beneficial. And when we're talking about addiction, it's not always just like drugs or gambling. There's many ways to be addicted to something, and a lot of people do get addicted to the likes or the shares, it's the attention, it's that positive little blip of serotonin you get. So there's people who could probably definitely benefit from having some kind of limitation of some sorts, but I'm all about freedoms and choices. So it was hard for me to align with that one. I can't think of any other one off the top of my head that I just like really hated or anything like that. Andrew Yang's a smart man. He's very reasonable and down to earth, and that's why I do pull so much of my policy from his book.
Do you live in a rural area?
It's insanely rural. Like like we call it the butt crack of the mountain. I have 68 acres, and that's how all of it is pretty much out here. So the houses, it's not somewhere you can even like go door knocking. It's you might go like a mile before you're at another house. It's very rural. It's very it's poverty. So we have the 10 poorest counties list. 9 of those counties are in my district. So I'm in the second poorest county, and the county a mile above me, like literally if I walked a mile up the road I'd be in, is the poorest county in Tennessee. And it is all rural. So we face a ton of challenges out here.
Could you define what the income level is in these counties?
I am not allowed to quote numbers off the top of my head because I do not remember numbers very well. And I know this is like the math campaign and I'm wearing a math hat, but I don't want to quote you and give you the wrong.
Green stands for
yeah,
plant.
I mean, I look at numbers like all day, every day, and I just don't want to accidentally give the wrong one.
Hannah, I see your camera's on for a minute.
Yeah, I figured. So I'm actually curious to see who's the incumbent in that district.
So the incumbent is Phil Rowe, but he's resigning. He's stepping down.
Oh, then who are you running against?
Hey, there is 16 Republicans running right now against each other. And we started with 4 Democrat candidates. We're down to 2. One of them was dropped off the Democratic ticket for various horrible reasons. And the other, he actually stepped down to endorse myself. And then we have one more gentleman in the race. He's still in the race. That's all I'll say about it.
And this looks good.
I have a 2-minute clip from WJHL interview with you. May I go ahead and show that for everyone?
Yeah, please do.
You guys mind? Okay, let me try that. Can you see it or?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes.
Can everybody else see it? Okay. I don't think we're getting audio on the clip.
Oh, that may be an issue if I'm using Firefox, unfortunately. So if you're not hearing any audio, go ahead and talk over it.
No, I think when you share screen, there should be an option to share computer audio.
Yeah.
I used it, but I think that Firefox has a problem. I may need to have put that in Chrome.
Well,
But this is still useful because you can see some of the some other photos about things that Blair stands for.
Maybe Blair can just tell us what she's talking about there.
Yes.
Yeah, I can totally tell you guys. So what I've done with my campaign was, I haven't even been running that long, but we were right in the midst of, COVID's beginning, and it went downhill so bad that we had a meeting, and I just could not stop talking about all the terrible things that were happening, people losing their jobs and not being able to pay their rent and getting kicked out. Electric was being shut off very quickly because people were already having a hard time. So you go even 1 week without a paycheck, you're in quicksand. You're just drastically sinking. So we decided to turn the campaign to try to just help people instead of worrying about actually campaigning. It definitely seemed the right thing to do. So I did a fundraiser, and I have an angel donor who matches, and we were able to raise $6,000 for a group called Tri-Cities Mutual Aid. All it is a local group of people, myself included, who said, we want to help people. That's it. And we don't want to ask questions or make them give us pay stubs or have to tell us how hard it is. If you are asking for help, you need help. Let's just give it to them. So we do. People send in requests all the time for various things, but we focus largely on providing food and groceries. So we went out, we bought groceries, we dropped them off on people's doors. We did one fundraiser to replace someone's solar battery. It's a gentleman, he's a veteran with no legs, in a wheelchair, living in the woods, no running water, basically in a little shack type building. And he had a solar battery and he needs dialysis. So his battery had been going out and he couldn't even make the phone call to get the ride to go to dialysis. So we got him a battery. So these are the types of things that I've been doing in my community. And that's what the news channel called to ask me about. And then they highlighted just some of the few personal issues like my military experience.
Got it.
So you're being a real public servant already. You're actually, demonstrating that you are there to serve the public. You're already taking care of your community. You're already doing, the job at the baseline. So, that really should be what determines who gets elected, if there's justice, if the system works in any way, right? But it seems to be more about branding, campaigning, and presentation than actual substance.
I'm going to try this on Chrome and see if any sound comes. Let me know.
What about what?
Maybe it should. Maybe doing it the right way will actually work. Maybe all the branding and substance can be cut through. Or maybe all the branding can be cut through with substance.
At least I'll know I tried.
It's an interesting test case.
Nope.
I'm thinking, what about this? This looks good because the incumbent is no longer there, so they usually just win because of name recognition. But what about your opponent in terms of name recognition? Where are they? Are
on
they
you mean my Democratic opponent?
Yeah.
I really don't like. So I say two things. I don't like to give anybody free airtime, but I don't like to talk negative about anybody either. And the reality of it is he doesn't even have a campaign team. He's not actively campaigning. It's not looking good for him.
For him. Good. Okay. So that means that if at the end of the day, it's going to be you against a Republican if something happens. So, and you said there are 16 running right
16.
now. So, wow, but I think that the incumbent is out of the picture. You're going to have a real shot because the biggest challenge to our other, UBI caucus candidates was just the name recognition. And I think once name recognition is out of the way and it goes based on substance, that's the best thing that can ever happen.
That's how it's supposed to work.
So
that's how
there's an industry that's upended it and replaced it with professional campaigning and advertising. So we have to address that somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
Blair, I'd like to see, I can only see the top part of your shirt. It says ask me about, and I want to know what ask you about.
I'm no way!
Very nice.
This is my favorite shirt, and I was like, "This is the Yang Gang podcast. I can deck out in Yang gear and feel proud." So
thank you.
We don't need to ask you. We already know.
That's a fantastic outfit.
Well, do people actually know about Andrew Yang near you? Is that completely nobody knows yet?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I'll give you guys a little backstory. I was the canvassing operations manager on the volunteer level for the entire state of Tennessee. So I did all the turf cutting to go door knocking and worked with, minivan and all that. So when I went out and did door knocking, I talked to people about him personally. A lot of people hadn't heard about him at that point, but that was months ago, and then I went to the different Democratic parties at this point, and this is before I had ever decided to run, and also spoke about Andrew Yang and UBI. So I'd like to think more people know about him. But we had some pretty active Yang gangs in the more populated cities, but out here in the rural side, not so much. Like I said, it's so many people out here they're not online, they're not seeing these ads, they're not watching debates, they're not seeing TV sometimes even. So they're like, I don't know anything about this. They don't have a clue. But people are really waking up to the idea of it, and it's largely because of COVID, because of relief efforts. And the biggest thing I'm facing right now is having to explain the difference between emergency relief and UBI, that they are not one and the same. They tend to think, oh, is UBI like what we just got with that stimulus check? Like, yes and no, it's not the same. It's not paid for the same.
Ask them, how would you like that stimulus check every month? Just ask them how it feels when they got the stimulus check. And I bet they're not going to say, like, I ripped it up and I didn't cash it because it's it's communism or something.
It's easy to grandstand and go, I don't need a handout until someone actually has $1,200 for you. And then you change your tune, right? And then you have to be accountable to that, and you change your worldview. So it's very positive. You got that one stimulus. That's a bridge to a real UBI. So I'm glad we're making that distinction.
Yeah.
So what's Blair's response to Ariel? Have you actually asked anybody about how they feel about getting their first stimulus check and if they would like to get some more?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people saw it as like a lifeline, definitely, but it's a very stubborn culture out here. So it's been Republican for 130 some years. Again, I'm not going to give you an exact answer there. It's a long time. There was only 4 years where a Democrat was in, and they don't necessarily want to hear any other points of views. They say they don't want a handout. That is the general consensus. But then again, I see those same people and they're flying the no more bullshit flags, Trump 2020, and huge signs in front of their yard. And I know they just used their stimulus check to put up that fence and buy that cow. So they're still using it and enjoying it. And I think at some point they're going to come around and be like, that was really nice. Maybe I do like that. Maybe it was helpful for my family. Maybe us having a little bit more money to put groceries on the table was good. I think they're going to see these things. And then you've got the other half of the population that they definitely understood how this was so important and really saved their lives in many ways. And now they're just looking for more answers because that was how many weeks ago? And we're still sitting here without the jobs or without the income or waiting on unemployment. And, some people have those programs gone through for them, but some are still suffering.
I wonder if some of them really fell for that Trump letter, that said, hey, it's from me. It's like, it's from me specifically.
So, I mean, then why doesn't he just give us more, right? I don't care who gives it to us. Just continue to give us the money so we can live and have communities, right?
And you hit on something really a good metaphor when you said it's like trying to build in quicksand. I don't know how if you can reason with these people. Just ask them, like, say you were trying to build a house and there was quicksand under that house. Like, how well would you do? Would it be nice to actually have something out of the house instead of the quicksand? Do they get metaphor? Yeah. It's
the problem I've come across is when we get trapped inside our own bubbles and we're so disconnected from the rest of the world, it's almost like a cultish mentality where you haven't even seen, you don't know that you're wrong, you don't understand. So a lot of these people, their parents were born and raised in the same trailer or living facility that they're in. Their grandparents were the same. They've never been outside of this area. They've never met anybody else, never seen other cultures, never seen a different way of life. So they don't have a problem necessarily with even living without electricity or running water or with zero education. A lot of them don't. They're just like, this is just how it is, and I'm alive, so that's enough for me. And it's really it's fairly normal, and it's really sad because they don't think that their life, they have zero hope that it'll be any different. So that's another thing that we have to really do to connect with these people is say, like, haven't you ever wanted a car? Like, don't you want to drive somewhere? Do you want to get an education? Is there something you're interested in learning about? Like, they just assume, well, I'm never ever going to be able to pay for college, and I can't even get over the mountain to go to it. How am I going to do that? They just don't even see a tangible way to these items.
We're at the level of people not even getting teeth done. So the most they're ever going to do with a tooth that's hurting is maybe pull it. They've never even thought about keeping a tooth that's hurting them or having it patched up. And so, I mean, I've met people who who no longer have teeth because they just keep pulling them out. They go to the doctor and insist that the doctor pulls them out and says that the doctor is trying to make more money off of them if they try to fix it. So it's at a level where it's like, it's such a huge disconnect with people from the city or from the urban, suburban areas like I am. So I'm now living in a rural area that is akin to your areas, but not quite as outside, because we still have a Walmart. We still have like, we have 3 grocery stores, in our town. So, but I do have that same response from everybody, even after they get the stimulus check. And so I think what's going on is people don't want to, they don't want to feel like they need something. Because if you need something and you might not be able to get it, it's very terrible feeling. And it's
let down. Yeah, the letdown.
Yeah. So what you're going to say is, I don't need that. I don't need to have that,
How far does your denial go, though? Like, have you been saying that for a few years now, perhaps? Maybe you're ready to come around now that everybody else is starting to, and it's an opportunity
Generations.
for you. I would be optimistic.
Many generations.
But I mean, there's also the contingency of people who are simply disengaged. There are probably a lot of young people who just never vote. And I mean, you're young yourself. You probably can reach a lot of people who are like in Gen Z and would vote when they otherwise simply never would, because they're young enough to be open-minded and go, well, maybe the government will give me $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month, and maybe I can make something more of my life because I have that, and maybe I will support that, even though it's not been culturally precedented here.
I just had an idea. Why don't you come to them like this? Would you rather Wall Street and Silicon Valley just be given this free money and they're so liberal and they don't even like you, or would you like it to be given to you, or something like that? Try to like find a common ground, and then once you find that area of common ground, bridge it to the UBI and make it seem like to tell them to think of it as a tax refund. You pay taxes, right? Wouldn't you want to get that back? Like try to frame it in a way that they can understand and they can support, so it kind of goes over their cognitive dissonance.
It's like,
right. Yeah, no, that's a great point what you said about the taxes, but I've actually gotten kickback on that. They'll say, just let me keep my money to begin with. They just don't even want to hear the tax argument on that. But what is a good win was your first statement about, do you know that Google and Tesla, I love Tesla for the record, and Amazon, all these companies make billions, if not trillions of dollars off of you and your data. That gets, the whole data as a property right has been a great opener for me into UBI. And the fact that those companies don't pay taxes, you pay taxes. Why don't they pay taxes? They do like it framed. Prefer to hear it framed that way. So
that's a great
framework. It's about educating them.
Just tell them
they owe you for your data.
It's their. Just tell them it's their own money. Just tell them it's their own money.
It is their own money.
Right.
Yeah. That's someone
we say, don't you want your money instead of the government? Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And can you just make a connection with like the high school valedictorian and have him or her be like, hey, friends, this is the way you could be engaged instead of the old way. I mean, like really, we have to reach like high school graduates, just people graduating from high school like this year. Those are the people who benefit the most from this. And like, if I feel like they can turn it around.
Right. Yeah.
Could you imagine when we were graduating high school, if we knew we'd have $1,000 a month to pay for school or buy a car or pay a rent to get an apartment with a friend, or it would have been phenomenal. It would have been
I would have had
different.
A completely different life. Yeah. And it's
right.
Then the politicians are like some are scratching their head like, really? I don't. The ignorance is stunning at some of the upper echelons of power.
Right.
Blair, do you get pushback from the other Democrats who are generally older in my area, for example, who might, because of your affiliation with Yang Gang or Yang Gang Values or UBI, do they feel like you're not a real Democrat when you say, I'm not going to attack the other team? Because I get that a lot in East Texas.
I actually, I actually haven't seen a lot of pushback from the Democratic members of the community. I actually had somebody ask me once, is your signs going to say Democrat on them? And I was like, oh no, they're going to be mad because it doesn't say Democrat on it. And I explained to them that, one, it's financially, it costs a little bit more to put more words on it, but also that I want people to look at who I am and the policies and base their judgment based on, do I think that'll do good for my community, and not on the label. And I was really surprised because they were like, yeah, I agree. That's great. I think you should do that. And it caught me off guard, but I was really impressed that they are not so much standing their ground as far as a label as that we actually want these changes to happen, even if we have to change the way we're doing it just a little bit.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad to hear it.
And what about
I was too.
And Blair, when you do your politicking, do you have people participating with you now in your community, or is it just or is it a lot more yin gang, or what's happening for you?
That's a good question too. It's growing, definitely locally. I do have a lot of Yang Gang support, clearly, but locals are definitely into it. I've got a lot of support, a lot of local endorsements coming through, and people are really open to it. So even if they don't love UBI, some of them just don't understand it. Some think it's great.
Right.
There's a really mixed basket there. But even if you just took away UBI out of the picture for a minute and look at everything else, it's fantastic. This is all the things that these people really truly want. So even the people who aren't necessarily completely on board or understanding of UBI still are supportive of myself as a person and as a campaign.
Okay, here's another thing we deal with in my rural area. People say there's sort of a lot of crypto Democrats. Like, they're afraid to come out to their parents as if they were, a different sexuality or something really, really, difficult to say. Like the same thing for being a Democrat at all. It's like to that level. And there's this sort of crypto Dems in terms of people who don't want to come out and say they're for UBI, even though they technically are. Somewhere in their hearts, they feel like it's going to happen, but I don't really want to talk about it. What would you say, is that do you notice that too?
Yeah, I definitely see that. There's a lot of people who are just like, I hope it happens, but I'm not going to speak on it myself. But that's really okay, because when people go to the polls, they're going to vote, for what they know they think they actually want, and they're not going to be judged by that. So I'm not too worried. I think that people are going to vote for what they truly believe in, and I can hope for, at least at a minimum, they're going to vote for what they believe in. A lot of people are waking up to that we have to do something different. Lives are being lost, especially now, daily because of this, and it's unacceptable.
What about politicians who believe it, but they won't put it in their policies?
That one's frustrating. That's a good question. That comes back to feeling like it's a gang war, like they can't go against a member of the same group's opinion, whether they think it's right or wrong, due to fear of retaliation or not getting support on their bills in the future and things of that. We just have to really focus on making these people feel supported in their decisions as their constituents, to say, look, this is what we want. If you support it, we are going to vote for you again, because you're actually representing it. And guess what? Your buddy over there who disagreed and they tried to turn on you because of it, we're not going to vote for them. That's the power of voting. And I was disengaged. There was many years I didn't vote at all. And I was like, it doesn't matter. My voice doesn't matter. I don't matter. Nothing will change. I largely gave up hope. And it wasn't until Andrew Yang spoke this particular time that it reunited this fire in my own heart to try again to get through to people. And the fact that so many people have gotten on board, people are out here, they want change, they want a better life. It can happen. We just have to keep inspiring each other to do so.
Right. And as someone from California, a very liberal state, it's I just share that same thing in common, that it just hasn't been working, and it just doesn't make any sense, because I'm kind of sick of the culture wars too. Over here, it's about the rights of a certain group, or that's all important stuff too, but the underlying economics, if we can fix that, that'll heal a lot of this culture stuff as well.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're not. That's a good point.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
So-
funny how we share this in common. You also said that sometimes in the place where you don't have a car, it's very hard to get around. And I also share that. I grew up in Bel Air for a while in a suburb. And as a young person, it's really depressing when you can't really get around. There's no kind of like public transportation, no kind of help. And this is the times like before Uber, before you could even call an Uber. So that's really important too. Like, how do people get around?
Yeah, this
In
is
the
a problem I'm
areas,
still trying to find a solution for, actually, because we can't have really public transportation. It's so vast. It doesn't even make sense for a bus to come through and pick up like maybe one person for several hours of driving and the gas and everything that goes with it. In the cities, it totally makes sense, or the more populated areas, absolutely. But it's still confusing as to how can we address this out here. We have a lot of senior citizens out here too that have no way to get to like medical treatments and things. Like, how do we solve this problem? I do this daily, go through different issues, going, what can we actually do, and think outside the box. So it's a great point. And I love how like everybody here is from somewhere else. I think you said you're in California, Ariel, and
Yep, LA.
Jeremy, did you say you're in St. Louis?
Correct. Yeah, St. Louis, Missouri.
I'm in New York. I don't think
STL
I
in the house.
mentioned it.
Okay, you're in New York. Hannah has been all over the place. I'm not sure where she is right now.
In California right now too.
I'm in
You're in
LA right now,
This matters
technically,
everywhere.
but from
There's
Seattle.
nowhere this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everywhere,
right.
it's
That's
everywhere.
We're all
that's it,
coming
that it's
together.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We're all
Have
from
you
different
lived anywhere
areas.
else before, Blair, or have you
Oh, gosh,
always
yeah.
been from Tennessee? Okay, tell us about some of the
Oh.
other places you've been to.
Yeah, okay. So my dad was in the military, as were his fathers before him. So we traveled my entire life. I was born in Texas, Faye. I've lived in Louisiana, Florida, Colorado, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, England. I mean, I've been all over the place, not just Tennessee for sure. But Scott Air Force Base is in Illinois. That was actually where I enlisted and started my Air Force career. So I've been to STL quite a bit, love St. Louis. I lived in Georgia. I've been stationed out in Savannah. I was stationed in Colorado, Panama City Beach in Florida. Like I've really been all over, and that's something that I appreciate. I appreciate the fact that I've been exposed to different people, different cultures, different ways of life, because it gives me more insight and more flexibility in creating these solutions and understanding that there's other ways to do things.
My parents are from Iran, so they immigrated here.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I bet you have some really interesting insight.
Oh yeah, I speak Persian, but like I mean it's like I really think that young people are just exhausted. Just it doesn't even matter if they're like children of immigrants, first generation American, or like fifth generation American. We're just so exhausted from all this dysfunction. Yeah. Yeah,
that's basically the summary right there. We are so sick and tired of all of it. It's exhausting. A lot of us aren't even sleeping much. Yeah, like we're all like, yeah, we're so tired.
Right.
I'm in my 30s, and I feel this way. This is like the second major
I'm
crisis
31.
of my
This
lifetime.
is people
Yeah.
of all ages, of all races, all genders, all parts of the country,
We're all
all parts
coming
of the
together.
world, but we're talking about solving it just for this one country.
Right. And we're
Yeah.
always told, like growing up in very liberal kind of like big metropolises, I think you call it a megapolis now that I'm in LA, that your ticket to a good life is a university education, and that just become BS. I mean,
Yeah.
like sometimes like some of these jobs that like they're never entry level. If you ever like fill out an online job application, like they want like 2 years of experience when they're not even willing to let you get your foot in the door and all this stuff. And then it's like, what are you supposed to do in the meantime? Unemployment is for people who were employed before, but then got laid off, but then get the money. But if you're fresh out of your schooling years and all these jobs are asking you for tons of experience when like they don't even want to give you any, it's complete BS.
The cash stimulus actually lost that group also. I heard that if you were 17 specifically, you didn't get a check for either your parents or yourself. And then up
which
through,
makes no sense.
18, 19, if you're still not, if you have, it's like just very strange. So it's really, do you have as one of your policies to bring the voting age down to 16 or 17?
That is a
Anything
great
like
question.
that? Because I think
and
that would be a great help.
It's a great question. And I had some really mixed reviews on this one too, as a mother of, I have a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old. I'm like, do I think that my son at the age of 16 should be voting for stuff he has literally no understanding of whatsoever? Like, should he vote on women's reproductive rights when he doesn't even understand, the capacity of that? It was very conflicting for me, but here's what I do see is they're going to, be 16, 17, and the changes that they're voting for are going to affect them as they become 18-year-old adults. A weird angle, like I paid into taxes and the healthcare system since I was, practically a kid. So these things definitely affect them, and we should take that into consideration. But I'm very mixed on this. So I do have a Youth for Blair group, and my scheduler, she's fantastic. She's a minor too, and she's absolutely wonderful. So well educated. They're so involved. So it's a mixed batch for me right now. I'm still
I kind of
looking
feel
for
like
more insight.
I kind of feel like it's like the general population, though. Like there's a lot of uneducated voters who are eligible to vote. So I feel like just like expanding the age, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't require 16-year-olds to vote. It's just like people who are disengaged are going to be disengaged, but people who are active, like give them the opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah.
So I feel like, if they're just 16-year-olds, they're not any different from adults, really.
Same concerns
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
point.
I
worry also too. Sorry, Faye, I'm on a lag. I'm so sorry. I worry too that it'll make them more targeted for political corruption or for people to try to manipulate the young minds to get them to vote in the ways they want. I've actually had somebody in a debate go hard on this, saying we need to use kids. That was his exact words. We need to use kids in protest. We need to use kids to get our political agendas met. And it made me really sick to my stomach. So that's like another thing I do kind of worry about with just opening them up to that even more than they are now. But it's just something I'm just going to have to weigh out. I feel strongly that they should be represented and they're taxed. And what is it? No taxation without representation. So if we're going to keep taxing them and let them work and do all these things where, like live shooter drills, all this stuff does affect them. So,
yeah, I think it would give them. I think that some of the same reasons that you've given are some of the same reasons that used to prevent women from voting, because women don't know anything about business, since they don't allow, they're not allowed to own stuff, and then they don't understand how to vote, or they'll be taken advantage of because their husband will force them to vote whatever they say, or so it's a lot of the same reasons that were that did not give power to women, and also before that to landowners versus people who didn't own anything. So just consider the fact that they're in the general population, we have all the same issues.
I think like kids are some of the most like less represented people in our entire democracy, because it's like think about like just the concept of school. Did you choose the school you went to? No. Did you choose the teachers that you wanted? No. Did you choose the subjects you wanted to learn? No. Did you choose the times you wanted to come and go? No. Do you choose like your own form of transportation? No. It's like then where like how do we transition kids, young people, into being autonomous? It's the dumbest thing. It's like, oh, okay, now you're 18. Now you can just do anything. When a day before your 18th birthday, you had all these restrictions, and there's no transition period. It's so bad.
It's unnatural.
Well,
it's just
and you guys bring up some really good points. I think you guys actually may be winning me over here. I'm somewhere in the middle, but that was a super good point, Hannah and Ariel too. And even joining the military, you don't even have to be 18 to join the military. I was 17, so they let me risk my life to serve my country. Yet I couldn't, like vote or buy alcohol or any of those things. Yeah, so it's this really weird mix.
Yeah,
and
ROTC is on campus ready to take you in and have you sign, even without your parents' consent, of course. But they're not there to teach you how to vote.
Right. Yeah. So there is a really big disconnect here. And you had a good point about like parenting and choosing education. I talk a lot about education reform, and that not every kid fits in the same same square. We really need to champion the diversity and what people are naturally good at. Like, you love workshop, then we need to have these, trade schools for them to access that and really follow their passions. With the passion, you're going to be successful.
Before we move too far away from it, could I just address your concern about letting a 16-year-old vote, about letting them have an impact? I think it's true. There's a real concern that they will, vote out of a place of ignorance, not do the research they should, or vote impulsively in a no issue, no content way. Sure, that can happen, but I don't think there's a significantly reduced chance that happens at 18 than it does at 16. I think maybe slightly reduced, but I think but I would argue that if it does happen at 16, it's a little less likely that it does happen at 18. I think maybe the first time you vote, you have the experience, you reflect on it, and then maybe you change how you do it the next time, regardless of if it happens at 16 or 18. That's kind of my feeling there. What do you think?
No, that's a really good point also. I appreciate it.
I have my feeling is that it's going to tremendously impact our rural communities to allow people to vote at 16 rather than waiting, because a lot of students are activated into voting because they get to a college campus, and that's where they see their very first students voting club. They've never seen one in high school. So if you miss the college experience, then you don't get to see other students and young people who are activated into politics. And so, like, if you're in the rural areas, where do we even have a college? We don't even have a college. Like, we've got like a little tiny community college, and I don't know that they do any politicking there. I don't, it's like, and it's not right for people who don't get to go to college already. They also don't get to vote, and they also get to, hop into a working poor life and just never hop out of it, never have time to think about politics.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And not to mention, like, the schools don't tell you anything about like money or finance or like budgets or banks or any of this, which is completely, like, I was diagnosed with ADD in like school, and I had an IEP, and I did that, and things turned out better. But it's like, the only reason I don't want to pay attention in school is because your subjects are like irrelevant and unhelpful, and it's just a bunch of like memorization and regurgitation. Like, and then when I got out of school, it was like, okay, like what about all this stuff can I use? Like, no employer ever had to ask me to come and recite some Shakespeare algebra to him. They wanted to know what I could do. So it's like, what were they doing? Like, it just pissed me off.
Yeah, I think we've gotten really far from where we thought public education was supposed to be. And given the 21st century we're in, and just the gist of life, we need to upgrade our school systems largely to deal with that. We need
and this is California.
New ideas, new technology. Yeah, I mean, this is all over. Even, when I went to school, I feel like very, very privileged that I took like honors economics 1 and 2. So I learned a lot about running a business and financing and checkbooks and banks, but most people don't. That's the reality of it. You don't get a lot of the economics or life skills that you need. And our parents are too busy working to teach it to us. And we were too busy doing, 5 hours of homework after school to be learning how to, grow tomatoes or what it's sow
But it
or
really
whatever.
annoys me because it's like, at the end of the day, you should have something after all of those years that lasts you. That's like a foundation where you can build the rest of your life up from, not just like finish a test or finish a grade and just forget everything and then just pay attention to, the next test that's coming up. But then when it's all over and you get that diploma or that degree, they just say, well, we're just throwing you to the wolves. And if you're financially broke, then that's your problem. Okay, bye. It's like, what?
Can I ask what you guys think about like pass or fail versus like the grading system? This is something I see come up quite a bit.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm not strictly opposed. But also, I think you can make a case for either. I think it depends.
Like an employer has never really asked you
as a student or a teacher or a community. I don't have a real quick, neat answer on that one.
Well, I feel like pass-fail is probably useful with feedback, like with specific feedback for the student.
I'm trying to find, is there like a correlation between like really, really good grades and making like a really good amount of money, or it's as I grew up, I saw that like it's mostly about like who you know and like
It's mostly about how much
Mhm.
money your parents had.
right.
Yeah,
how
good
much
grades
money-
are mostly
That's-
about
That's all it is.
obedience. Yeah.
Mhm.
right.
I
So
would
it's
agree.
like
Yeah.
it's like, do we really live in this meritocracy that they keep like BSing
course.
us, or like because I'm just seeing that like a lot of like okay, so some celebrity like Kim Kardashian can make tons and tons of money and be as dumb as a rock, while like this guy worked their butt off in school and they just owe debt and they hardly have any opportunities. So I think the meritocracy is basically just an illusion at this point. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So
I
I'm
agree.
actually for I would like public education to become a public good, like the public library, where, the library doesn't tell you what you have to learn and then grade you on it.
Mhm.
And so people are willing, people go to the public library, you check out whatever book you want. It's about what you want to do, right? And they don't, they don't grade you. They say you have to have finished reading this book in order to get the next book. And then you have to they don't have a mandatory component. If you don't come to the library every day, we're going to punish you or your parents for not sending you. So I would prefer to see public education move towards, being that public service where people
Right.
take advantage of it because it's great. And why wouldn't you want to? It's like, just free to
Right.
you.
Right. My spouse was homeschooled. He and his 3 brothers were all homeschooled, and pretty much in that fashion, where they get to study what they like, and they're just like really diverse and fascinating people. Like one person like teaches music, another's in musical theater, but also trained to be a pilot.
Oh, yeah.
My spouse is a like computer engineer, but he also does like electrical work. They're just like multifaceted people because they taught themselves to learn what they found to be interesting and useful to them.
Did you get to do any components of homeschooling during your education, Blair? Because you had to move from place to place. That means you would have to start a new school every time you moved. I mean, how did that work?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. I was never homeschooled. I definitely was in private Catholic school for many, many years. And then I graduated from a private or a public high school. But I was very lucky that we had all kinds of programs at that school. I did, like tons of electives. I doubled up my core classes so that they were just all out of the way. And then I just took electives, and I had the second highest GPA in a class of like 2,000 kids. So I got a lot of experience. I did have great grades, and that did not lead me to be rich by any means
Well, there you
whatsoever.
go.
Because I joined the military, so yeah.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of homeschooled kids out here in this atmosphere, and I am largely considering homeschooling my children at this point. I've considered it for years. I do have one of my children who's on the spectrum, and he's diagnosed with ADD, ODD, ADHD, anything you can really think of, and he's a great kid. It's just he needs to be doing stuff. Yeah, and they want all these kids to just sit at a desk, listen to lecture, and be quiet, and they're young and they're full of energy, and they want to be doing more. And I think there's a lot of ideas out there, and we can look at some other countries that have an open school system, much like what you were saying, Faye, where the kids can choose to what classroom they want to go to, and when they are like, okay, I'm done learning about rockets, they can go down the hall into cooking class or whatever it may be, and it's pretty much like an at-will interest type of deal. So they're still in school, and they just have that freedom to follow what they like and still be learning.
Yes, because this is what I've noticed. Like when I grew up, like there's nothing linear about your life anymore. Like you have to make all these decisions, and then you have to see like which appointments are the ones that you give your time to, and you have to figure out like yourself, what to pay attention to, and no one's forcing you somewhere for an hour to pay attention to something. So there's such a huge gap between how you were groomed in school to what the whole rest of your life is going to look like, and to have that just you make these choices on your own instead of constantly being forced to make them, just prepares you so much better for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I would love to know what you guys think too about incorporating like mindfulness, and some places and have like meditation or yoga now that the kids can go to just work on self-control. Like I just think there's other ways that we can teach accountability and self-control other than forcefulness.
It's a tricky
Yes,
thing because you have
that's
to make
awesome.
children see the appeal of something that is hard for even many adults to see the value of.
Right.
But I think
Oh.
if it can be done, it should be. It would be very valuable. But I mean, you absolutely cannot force it. You can't make it be like, okay, it's
Mhm.
meditation hour, like it or not,
Yeah.
sit quiet, think about nothing.
But
just
you
gonna
can force
traumatize
them to.
them.
But
No,
you can force them to read Shakespeare against their will.
Well, you shouldn't
So-
either. The thing is, you should
Right.
present them with options. They should be, they should see adults doing it, and they should say, "Huh, why do
Mhm.
adults do it? What's the benefit?" And if they're interested, it should happen naturally like that. Like
I can
Right.
think
have the
of
opportunity to go and
just,
sign up for an hour.
like
That's how it should work.
thousands of trivial facts that I was forced to learn in school that have not helped me at all. So if we can
Yeah.
do that, like we can have like maybe some meditation, mindfulness, and just like emotional learning and stuff like that.
Well,
Because
like, even just like
yeah.
gratefulness, the mindset of being grateful. And we were talking about what we learned in school. Like we were all taught that like Christopher Columbus was a hero who discovered America. And now as adults, we're like, what? That is not what happened
Yeah.
at all. I think we can all agree that that is whitewashing. That's not what happened. So the
Right.
fact that a lot of the stuff we even learned in school isn't even the truth. It's not even what actually
Mhm.
happened. And yet we're forcing our kids to sit in here for hours a day to regurgitate this information. It's just, I see a lot of
Right.
problems with the education system. I'll leave it at that.
Well,
that's what my
noticed that
YouTube channel
Blair.
was dedicated to. But go ahead, Faye.
I noticed that Blair is the only person so far as a politician who's come to our group that has asked us what we think about something, which is really
Aw.
important.
That's
Okay.
great.
I mean, it's
I-
just
I
you're doing
noticed
the
in
job
general,
correctly because you haven't
most
been taught to do it
podcasting-
incorrectly.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's true for even for us, sometimes we invite people that are very famous or that are about to become famous if they become a politician for their area. And we hold them up, on the pedestal, and we talk to them to find out what they think, because then we're going to decide whether we like them or not. But honestly, what we need is somebody who has a chance of changing their mind by listening.
Mm-hmm. A person of the people, right? Because it's so like dissatisfying when people just come on and it's all about their clout. It's all about like say my name, sing my praise, and agree with me and like make me feel all special. Trump rally. And there are other ones that are like, oh, how can I help you? What do you want to see? And that's so much better than the former that I just mentioned.
And it just
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
come
I mean,
naturally to a lot of people. It comes naturally to Blair. Like Blair
Right.
is someone who wants to hear what you're thinking before she, starts to talk to you.
The thing is, I think it comes naturally to more people than it does in the end in the politicians
in
we
the
see,
end game.
because we unlearn it. It's intuitive to serve people and to ask them what they want and to create consensus. It's not intuitive to take a message and have everyone parrot it and just be on brand and get into a team sports mentality. So you're really doing real political work, and there's like nothing more threatening to the establishment than that. And they'll do everything they can to teach you to do it wrong. So try to not learn it wrong. You're doing great.
I'm doing my best. It is, they'll tell you, I get in front of these groups of people and they're like, okay, tell us what you think. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. What is important to you? What do you want to talk about? Like, I'm not here to tell you how to think. I'm here supposedly to represent you. I do have ideas and opinions I would love to share, but that's what it is. It's supposed to be sharing of ideas to find out what we think is best for us as a whole.
That's really refreshing.
And that's so dismissed. Yeah, I've
And I
said
think
that from
it's
the
actually
beginning.
a
I don't
very-
understand
I
how
think it's a
people
very
have gotten so far away.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Blair. I think it's also a very feminine position to take, and that I think that the politics and a lot of business being dominated by male voices, it's more about a competition. Once again,
I think you hit it on there. It's more about this competition because like our society or like I'm sorry, like this country has become so individualistic that it's about like, look at what I've accomplished, look at how like amazing I'm doing these things, and look at this that I've done and that I've done, and I'm so much better than that other guy, and my ideas are so much better than this other person, because we've fallen into this trap of like, we're always in competition. But when you're representing the people, like, let that all go and pay attention to what the people want. And that's why I think you're seeing these protests.
There's something Andrew Yang
Right.
says that doesn't get talked
Yeah.
about too much, and it's just kind of relevant to what we're all just talking about right now, which is maleness, or like masculinity involves interconnectivity inherently, or I mean that's what he said, and I don't know if that's exactly right, but I think humanness involves interconnectivity. We have a toxic conception of masculinity that involves specifically isolation, specifically me by myself, have to do it by myself. If I can't do everything alone, if I ever need help, I am somewhat emasculated. So that's why we have men going out not wearing a mask, going like, fuck a virus, man, I'm a man. I can't ask for help with a mask, which is stupid, but it's how they were taught. They have people they respect in their lives reinforce that stupid view. So we just got to fix the culture.
Right.
I actually wanted to ask Blair, if you have been treated differently because you're a young woman. Do people generally like to give you a lot of advice because, you know, you're young and you're a female? Do you get that?
Yeah. They would never ask a man, like, how could you possibly run for Congress because you have a child? And I'm like, this guy has a child, he's in Congress. This guy is a child, he's the president of America. Like, they don't even ask that to the men. So it does come up. The fact that I'm just a woman is said like that.
But you were in the military.
Follow-up is, who's helping you with your child while you're doing this?
Whew, man, I need a nanny. I have 4 kids and a farm. It's difficult. It's very hard at times. And I hope that I can raise enough funds to actually hire someone to help me, because a lot of the times I'm having to bounce between the two. You know, I'm in an interview while my kids are napping type of deal. My husband works long hours. He drives 2 hours just to get to his job one way. So he's not even usually home until late in the day. It's very, very difficult. So that is true, but we make it work, you know.
Hey, I have a policy idea stemming from that. What if federally financed or publicly financed childcare for people who are running for office?
Yeah, Hannah, I love that. I think that we should have a childcare system just to begin with, even for civilians, largely like what we do in the military. Everybody just has childcare. It's not this insane need. Just to give you guys a point of reference, when my boys were little, I paid $600 a week for daycare. Like, can you imagine 10 years ago how much you have to make to even just pay your bills and take care of 2 kids by yourself as a single mother? It's insane. It was absolutely bananas. So, yeah, and they do have things in place so that people running for office after the primary, you can use donations, especially to pay for your childcare if people provide that. So that is something people can donate directly to. On my form, it says, like, I want to pay for an hour of childcare. There's ways to do it, but it's still it's still
that's
hard
a great
because
idea.
I don't want to give up being a mother too, though. You know, like, I am a mother. I love my kids. I want to raise them. So
I think we hit up on something like extremely important. Like these are the kind of things that keep people, decent human beings who have good ideas and who actually listen to people, from actually getting into the halls of power. There are all these like systematic roadblocks of like money and time. So when they have you so busy that you're constantly struggling and stressing out, then who has the mental bandwidth to think of actually improving something? And that's why we get caught in this chicken and egg situation. It's like, to run, something like a UBI would help so much, but to have the UBI, we need to run. It's so like, you know.
So Blair, do you still have time to be with us? Because I don't know how long we have you scheduled for. Speaking of time,
I have a few more minutes if you guys
can you say a little bit?
If you have anything else you want to talk about? Cool. Yeah.
Well, I just heard the best idea from you just now, that you said you could put it on your website to say if somebody wants to pay for that hour, an hour of something for you. I wish more politicians would do that instead of, here's the checklist of, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever. It just so it doesn't relate to anything real that you're doing when you're actually campaigning. If you could say this would pay for gas for me to go to this convention, this would pay for a hotel room, this would pay for your for a specific thing like getting childcare while you're trying to do something important. I think that's just awesome. I wish more people would do that.
It's nice to know like a tangible, where is my money going? I'll be really candid here. So I'm not wealthy by any means. I definitely I don't have money. So when I donate to political campaigns like I did for Andrew Yang's, that was like really monumental for me. And I was one of those people who was like, why donate $5? Like it's not even gonna help. I felt like really bad. And then when I could donate like $20, I was like, wow, I felt like really, really good about it. But it's nice to know where that money is actually going, since it's so hard for us to come by. Like that would be like a tank of gas for me or dinner for my kids. So to know what it's going to an actual cause was really, really nice.
Are you really using that on your website for donations? Because that is a great idea.
Yeah, there's a form that pops up that says you can pick different things to
other
donate.
Politicians who are not doing this.
Yeah.
So this is going to be exciting. I can't wait for like you to go up against that, whoever that Republican is going to be, because it's like whoever it is, if they don't have military experience or been in the military, that I heard like that's a huge like advantage in like conservative areas. So it looks really good.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm excited for the primary because I spoke with Andrew Yang actually yesterday morning about this, and my primary is August 6th. So he thinks that come September, October is just going to be like this massive media frenzy for so many reasons. One, because I'm a Democrat out here in the red zone. Two, because I'm a woman and a woman has never been elected here. And three, because I have UBI on my platform, which is such a national issue right now. So we're really waiting. I'm excited. It's hopeful. I really want to make these changes and make the world a better place. And I know that sounds so cliche, but if we have a happier, healthier society, it's going to be so different of a world for us all.
It's not cliche. I mean, just going that, even to think it sounds cliche, that's like the wrong first reaction we should have when a politician goes, I'm trying to improve society. We should go good, right? But we're so screwed up in so many ways. But while we have you for a few minutes, I want to ask, how connected are you with the rest of UBI caucus? Who else have you been talking to? Have you been making plans with them? Have you been coordinating? Because I really would love to have the whole UBI caucus on our show sometime soon, or as much of them as we can. And I would like to know how much interconnectivity is there already?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, obviously we have UBI caucus, but it's different because people can say they support UBI and that doesn't mean they have all these other great values on their plate or even the right form of UBI. So there is something I'm trying to start, like UBI warriors, and that's not just other candidates, but also everybody just championing it. And we're reaching out to a few candidates to see if they would like to like band together to create a quote unquote coalition. And some of them would have been like Heidi Briones. I love her to pieces. She was working her butt off. James, I can't say his last name right. I say Ehlers. James Ehlers, thank you. I'm so terrible. People mispronounce my name all the time, so I forgive everybody. Forgive me too. Then we've got Herzog, up in New York, Bad Run. I'm about to have we're gonna do a virtual tea chat. She's nice. Awesome too. So there's quite a bit of candidates I am in regular contact with and helping promote them. This is not just about me or Tennessee. This is about us as a nation and a society, and it doesn't help for just one of us to win. We need to get good people elected in all these different positions. So
now more
I'm so
than
glad you
ever.
asked that.
I'm so glad to hear it. I'm so glad you're in contact with them. And please, we'll be in contact with you about getting you back on the show for a big meeting with a lot of UBI caucus members soon. So that's great.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Can you guys see my new screen share?
Yes.
Actually,
Do
Blair,
you
I
see
had a
just the
question for
video
you.
or do you see the whole donation?
We see the whole form. It's blurry on my end, but I think that's just my internet.
Yeah, my end too.
Oh, okay. Well, the form here, this is the form I'm talking about. You should put, instead of donate 5, 10, 25, is there any way to get Act Blue to put in this is how much it would cost me to do this or that?
Yeah, there
would be
is one
cool.
up. There's multiple different ones. So there is one, and I don't usually go donate to my campaign, so I can't tell you how to find it, but I'll have to ask my campaign manager, because there's one we have out right now that when you go to donate, that is the page it takes you to, and it tells you like you can donate X amount of money for directly to get a sign or to pay for the internet or for an hour of childcare. Like that is the first thing that comes up. So I'm not sure which link that one is. It's just a different link. There's different ones.
Because I think that's the appeal of the merchandising, right? That people know exactly what it is. But even though in merchandising you keep it yourself, but you might want to buy something for the candidate that if you understood what it was going to be for, it's more interesting. I think Hannah had a question. Did you get to ask, Hannah?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I finally made it, even though Google didn't redirect me properly. But yeah, Blair, I mean, are you familiar with the Testify for UBI project?
I am. I sent in the application and they sent me a request to make a video, and we're working on that right now. I actually messaged earlier. Do you know the deadline for that by any chance? Because I was like, when's the deadline?
Right. So like it's kind of a moving target. So so once we know, we'll like blast it out. But as of right now, we're just continuing to accept applications. So yes, awesome. Okay. I'm looking forward to your video.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for people who don't know in our audience, Hannah Wan, who's with us today, is the Testify for UBI person.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, and I applied for it, and I know who Hannah is, and I talk to her on social media. So that's good to know. If I have a question, I might be pinging you later.
Bridging communication gaps. See?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a Slack meeting at the same time, it was another Zoom meeting through the Humanity First Slack at this exact same time that we had this talk set up about how to coordinate these media efforts. So I feel like someone from our podcast needs to get over there, but we're always podcasting at exactly the moment they're having their meeting. So we got to figure this out.
The struggle is real.
Well, we'll just schedule it differently next week.
Struggle is becoming extremely real, like everywhere. Like our status as a first world country is now being questioned. There's no better time than to do this than right now.
Would it be like
questioned us ages ago?
Would it be really inappropriate to like crash a meeting to like go live? We probably shouldn't go live stream somebody else's meeting. It's probably really inappropriate, right? I don't know.
But why would you need to crash it? Just ask.
No,
like,
it's just like if we would ask, be like, can we just, since we normally broadcast 3 to 5, can we broadcast at your meeting?
I would say they might be open to it, honestly, because that's how we all are. We're like, the more the better. Let's collab.
Right.
Like,
it's not a market. We're not selling this.
Working together.
Right. Yeah. We're so transparent because we want people to know what we're talking about and what's going on, as opposed to some other people in power where they always want to keep it under the rug. Why would you want to keep it under the rug?
We just want to do this. Get it done. That's it.
Right.
I want to hear about Hannah's location and what she's doing. Do you have a chance to tell us, Hannah?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think they're just having like a first of the month rally here. I think this is the first time they're starting it. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure which organization. It's not necessarily Black Lives Matter, but it's in support of Black action directly related to what BLM is organizing. Then they're going to redirect there. But yeah, as of right now, we're just meeting up here. It's a decent crowd.
Well, where are you? Are you in Los Angeles in front of a special building?
Wilshire Park Place. It's just someplace in Koreatown. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Are there some? Is it just because it's a park, or why was this location chosen?
I think they chose it specifically because it was Koreatown and like the historical significance of this area, like during like the 1992 riot. So yeah, there is a historical significance to why they chose this place.
I seem to remember that an immigration building was in Korea, like right near Koreatown, where I used to have to go get some stuff done for me. So there's probably a lot of government offices in that area too, just in those big tall buildings.
Yeah, there's like a Chase building right across the way. But yeah, I'm not really familiar with this area.
I heard that in Los Angeles, they had said that they are no longer going to do a curfew. I think the police said that they have eliminated their curfew because
Yes.
Yeah.
it was
That
relatively
is
peaceful
true.
and they didn't want
Good.
to create more problems.
No. They got rid of the curfew because people sued. So there's a lawsuit.
It's always
know.
a lawyer behind all the
Yep.
good things. That's kind of weird.
Protests
because
work,
lawyers are so-
lawsuits work. Keep protesting, keep submitting lawsuits.
Just have
I
to
was
keep the
told by
pressure.
somebody that all the big stuff was done by lawyers, even though it would, we do demonize lawyers a lot.
There's some good ones. I went to law school for like a semester.
What happened with that? Why only one semester?
Oh, finances, personal things coming up. But yeah.
I've seen a lot of lawyers really step up to the bat right now and say we're going to represent people pro bono that are facing this. It's been very hopeful. It's inspiring and makes me really happy to know that there's good lawyers out there that are going to help these people. We had a local one here out in Johnson City here in Tennessee, which is it's a city, but it's nothing like the big cities at all. It's still fairly rural, but they did a peaceful protest and they were literally, sitting cross-legged, hands up, and the police department was very brutal with them. They busted some faces open, they went to jail, and it was all caught on video. So there's no arguing about what happened, thankfully, at least that. And lawyers immediately stepped up and everybody just dumped their money. We bonded them out and they have total representation. So it's good to see that happening, that people have our backs as we're standing up to these injustices.
Have you had any protests happening in your area in Tennessee, or I don't know, like there might be other forms other than protesting? You could hold like a vigil or something like that, which is what happened in our town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're happening everywhere, really. I went all the way to Nashville, which is about 5 hours away from me, and I stayed there overnight. And the protests there were intense. I was about 2 blocks away when we saw minimum 100 police in full like tactical gear with shields and everything march up the hill and actually clash with the protesters. And it was a very emotional moment even for me, and I was 2 blocks away. Seeing that and hearing it was so intense, and I really felt for these people because this was broad daylight in the middle of the day for a peaceful protest that immediately was clashed with the police. And then it did turn into riots later that night, and there was at least 3 fires. 3 separate times they got the city hall on fire. They trashed like the mayor's office specifically. They weren't successful in burning the building down, but they definitely gave it their all. So there has been some really intense riots for days or weeks now, over a week. It was the same. I went to Louisville, which is about 5 hours from me too. I took a bunch of pictures down there. Basically everything that has a first floor window or door is boarded up completely, like because of the riots. So it's pretty intense, but right around me, not so much. Even the town I told you guys about where that picture is from, Rogersville, there's no boarding up there. There's no signs. There's no protest. There's nothing happening there. But some of the bigger cities, definitely. The only protest we had out here was people saying they don't want to wear masks, that it's a violation of their freedom. That was the biggest protest they had, which is,
All right.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. If it tells you about where I'm at a little.
Why did you
But,
decide
I
to
guess
leave where you were doing, where you are, and to become a homesteader? How did you come to this decision after having been to so many different places?
that's a great question. So it's beautiful. There's something to say about having your own land and the peacefulness of it, and just the privacy. Really, I'm a little bit of an introvert actually, so I really like my own space and privacy, and that's why we chose it out here. It's beautiful. It's affordable land because it is in the middle of nowhere, but there's so many problems out here, and it's one of those things that Andrew Yang used to say about when you're in an emergency situation, you don't wait for somebody to call 911 or give CPR. Somebody's going to give them CPR. I don't know who it is, but they're going to do it, I'm sure. You don't do that, right? You say, this is a problem. We know what to do. Let's do it. Let's act. And that's really what I decided is if we're going to live here and have our family here, and my parents are retired here also. My mom and dad live right here too. And we've got to make this place better. We've got to help these people who are just waiting for somebody to do so.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
And it's interesting, like we spend so much money on like the military and weapons and all this stuff. What's the point of protecting something that's like kind of like corroded from the inside, that's run on the inside? If you have cancer, no amount of weapons and guns is going to cure your cancer, you know?
That's actually a good phrasing.
Interesting that you brought up the 911 for your area. How long is the response time?
I couldn't tell you the actual response time, but one of our really good friends, they're a married couple. She's an ex-police officer, and her husband worked for the fire department, and he also worked in the firearm sales industry. So they have a lot to say on these topics. But part of the problem here is the ruralness is if I can call 911, since we don't have phone service, I call them from Google, which occasionally doesn't work. Like if it's raining, I don't have internet, so I couldn't even call. So suppose you have a phone and you can call, you get a hold of the emergency services, right? And they try to radio an officer. There's a really big chance they can't even get a hold of an officer if they're in a dead zone, like a radio dead zone, which is huge. It's a huge, massive part of our rural area. So say they do get a hold of them by chance. Okay, we get an officer or an ambulance, they're coming out to you. Well, guess what? They're GPSs often don't work out here unless you download the map ahead of time. Let's hope that they did that. They get out here in this emergency situation, they need help. Guess who can't radio or call back for help because the radios don't work out here. So not only are we failing the people who live here, but we're also failing the people working in these emergency services positions by not providing them the backup they need also. So it's a huge problem. And it's not from a lack of trying. The funds have been given out and it still didn't get done. So it's really more of a lack of accountability. And I would say greed also, people wanting to allot the money into other pockets instead of where it needs to be to install the infrastructure to make this happen. That's a great question.
Not having internet and phone connectivity is absolutely huge because I discovered myself during a tornado that happened last year. Nobody, there was like 100 of us there, and very few of us could get a phone call out and actually be able to talk to somebody and let them know. So that's why I love that Hannah is actually here with us today. Somehow I feel like we're keeping her safe, even though, you know, it's like she's probably fine, and there's a lot of other people there. But just the fact that she's got a thing recording right now live, you know, whatever's happening, it feel even though we're too far away to actually physically intervene,
we have like, evidence. That's the most important part, like evidence and keeping the receipts, so whoever is in a position of power can't just make up their own story and nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you are out in the rural area, you wouldn't have this protection. If a police was harassing you, or if you were actually involved with somebody who is dangerous, you know, how do you even get a video of that out to anybody?
Yeah, it's tough. I feel much safer carrying a firearm with me when I'm out and about. What if I am by myself and my car breaks down and I am miles away from anything and everything? And it's not just people. Like we have bears, we have wolves, we have coyotes, we've had bobcats and mountain lions. So not having access to get help when you need it is definitely something that's worth concern. You guys are right.
So that's why the firearms become so important when you're saying, you know, here's the choice. I don't have a phone that connects me to people when I need help, so I use a firearm instead.
Hey, Blair. So we're at an hour and a half right now. Are we good on time? Do you need to get going, or?
I should probably get going. I have kids down for a nap, but they should be up any minute. And I don't have air conditioner in here, and to be honest, I'm getting really hot, so I need to take a break anyway. But I appreciate you guys bringing me on and just having an actual conversation with me. I love it. I appreciate you all, And please keep doing what you're doing because it's so important.
Oh, thank you. It's been a
Blair,
pleasure.
thank you for coming to talk to us. Especially, I hope you get a chance to get more talk time in front of people who are from the big cities, because I feel like the rural areas feel neglected because they are. They literally are just neglected by people outside, and because they don't have enough people, to speak out. They don't have the internet. They don't have money. It's just so many things are lacking, and I hope you're able to take that to the big cities and explain that to other people. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Do you want to give
Thanks,
us like
guys.
your Twitter handle or something like that before you take off,
yeah.
so we can?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So Twitter is just Blair Walsingham. It's hard to spell my last name, but wall, like a wall, sing like you sing a song, ham like you eat it, and the wall only has one L, so Walsingham. But you can find it, just go into blairforcongress.com. It has all of our little internet blips at the top. You can just click for, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So I would appreciate it if you guys all like and follow stuff. It definitely is helpful. At times it is a boost in morale when I do get like a negative, super just hateful person on there. And I'm like, okay, I know that I am not alone in this thought, that I am not the minority who thinks what is, right and just is important. So I do appreciate everything.
You get the most black when you're right above the target. And I think we're headed there.
I've heard that. That's inspirational too. Thank you.
Yes.
But all right, until next time. See you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye, Blair. Thank you for
Bye.
joining us.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
Okay.
great.
We lost Shale for a minute. Do we want to go ahead and close out and say goodbye to everyone?
Yeah, let's do it.
Or do you want to hear Hannah tell us more about the protest for a minute?
Oh, I'm not
Oh,
even
sure,
paying
yeah.
attention because I've been focusing on you guys. But yeah.
Do you want to impromptu ask somebody near you if they would like to be interviewed for like 5 minutes?
Hey, why not?
Oh God, I don't have that kind of skills right now.
That's not the right
Everything's
headspace for
got it.
you, huh? All right. Well, thank you very much. Jeremy, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in today. Special thanks again to Blair Walsingham. I've been saying her name wrong ever since I have seen it, so it was nice to get that correction. So yeah, we'll sign off here. So yeah, once again, my name is Jeremy. If you'd like to find me on Twitter, you can follow me at Jeremy Sammons1. That is JEREMY SAMMONS and the number 1. And I will pass it to you, Faye.
All right. I'm Faye Koo. You can find me at Palestine Math. Okay, Ariel?
Yeah, my name's Ariel. You can find me at ARIELS_ARMADA, and that is Ariels_.
Hannah?
Yeah, hi. You can find me at NowHannah1, which is my full name, like forwards and backwards palindrome, and also at Testify for UBI. Thank you.
All right. Great episode, you guys. Thank you so much. Wish we had Shell here to host.
All right, signing off. Until next time.
Bye.